Hello, hello. What's up? What's up? It is a new day, it is a new week, and it's time to get social. My name is KaVonna, and welcome to the Introvert's Social Hour. All right, today I've brought two of my closest friends, Nicole and Sabrina, to count down their top five favorite romantic comedy movies. We have a rom-com squad that started in 2020, and maybe I'll give a story for that later. So I had to bring them on today's episode. Every conversation that I have had with these two is never dull. So get ready for a fun-filled conversation and possible new movie recommendations. To let you know who's coming up, Nicole Sowers is a queer writer based in Los Angeles. They are a secret romantic with an alternative taste in rom-coms and a love for comedic B-plot romances. Sabrina Sanchez is a high school English teacher who's been falling in love with rom-coms since she was little. She's got a special soft spot for witty banter and 2000 rom-coms. So please welcome Nicole and Sabrina to the show. Woo woo! Yay!
Hello. Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on. How are y'all doing today? What's the vibes?
I'm super excited. I'm very excited. You did the little thingy and you went iCarly thing, and I was already singing the little theme song in my brain.
I love
Yeah.
that.
It's dreary outside where I am, but I'm feeling a sunny disposition because I get to talk to y'all on not a Friday night, which is nice.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we were just talking about that, how we get to see the light in each other's backgrounds. Yeah.
Never seen our rooms in this lighting.
Never. Like, what is light? So I'm super excited for today's episode. But I also wanted to note that I'm also excited to have y'all as like my first guests on the podcast. So super, super thank you for being here and being like the trial and error. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I did want to start off with the fact that we already know that there's no like official definition for what a rom-com is. That's been like the difficult figuring out of it all. But I did pull some takes on like how to label it and what people do say. So I had to pull from Merriam-Webster dictionary. So they define it they define it as a light comic movie or other work whose plot focuses on the development of a romantic relationship. So I also saw that too, like Entertainment Weekly said something along the same line of it's a comedy. The rom-com of it all makes it a subgenre. So it's mainly a comedy and the main plot is romantic. What do y'all think? Are y'all agreeing, disagreeing?
I mean, that's kind of how I chose mine. I went in and I was like, okay, has to be funny, cannot be sad. I have so many serious roms. And then I was like, yeah, all of these, the relationship is primary. And that's what makes it a rom-com instead. It's not like a secondary plot. It's like the main focus of the movie.
Okay, awesome.
That's how I figured mine out.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I've also seen it referred to as like a subgenre of slice of life, where it's not like the timeline is usually pretty different from other movies where you get a lot of vignettes of different pieces that form together to describe the forming of a relationship, which is really interesting. And the comedy is always really important for me. I need to be enjoying it and laughing. There could be some serious moments, but if I am not like giggling at some of the wordplay or like funny moments, then I'm like, this is a romance, but not a rom-com.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree with both of those. I also kind of think I looked at it as a form of like half and half. So like it needed to be like equally blended. But not all. It's very rare though when all like I can't name a whole bunch of them that blend them equally, like perfectly like that, like a perfect half and half. But there are some like 60/40s, 70/30s. But we'll see.
I was like, I got a whole list for you.
Okay.
Yeah. I got him.
I saw your face. And I was like,
I got this.
She's got it. So now that we talked about that and like what rom-coms are and what we qualify as rom-coms, let's start going over our personal top fives. We'll start with our fifth choice and then we'll go down to our number one. Sabrina, you are first. Please reveal your top five and why your number five and why it's your number five.
Okay, I think y'all are going to be a little surprised by this one, but I saw it and I was like, oh, it has to go on my list. Sweet Home Alabama.
Okay.
I love it. So for multiple reasons. One of the first ones, the side characters. I think this is a movie that has super, super strong side characters that keep us invested in everything that goes on. They have their little hijinks throughout the entire thing. And the main reason I love it, though, is because they're just so annoyed with each other the entire time.
Yeah.
Reese Witherspoon's character, Jake, they're just always going at it the entire time. And I love that because I'm just like, she's not a great person.
No.
She's not a great character. She's not super compelling for most of the movie, which I think is refreshing because it's not like anyone's trying to change her, which is a big plot in a lot of these rom-coms. She's just there. And they're just like figuring things out with her there. She's getting readjusted to being in her hometown. And they're just constantly fighting. And I love it. And it makes me so happy every single time because some of their little arguments are the best parts of the entire movie. And then I am a very big fan of the dramatic confessions. And so at the very, very end, spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen it, where she has that moment, so I can kiss you anytime I want. I love it. It makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. And then seeing them all end up at the bar, I'm just like, it's such a good ending because it's not perfect. And I like that too. Where we already know they put the little boxers up on the cake because that's literally how the marriage is always going to be. They're not making it like seem like, oh, all of our problems are solved. Everything is nice. No, these two are going to be going at each other's throats like their entire lifetimes.
Yeah.
But they're going to make it work. And I really, really love that. And then they set up the two gay friends at the very end, which obviously I also love. That one also makes me very, very happy. And so I feel like it's just like a very good feel-good movie. And it is super nicely balanced because the whole focus is not just that romance. We see her coming back into her life. We see her growing and realizing she didn't need to run away completely. We see that he has done all of these things to like better himself. We also have Patrick Dempsey's little character on the side who is also a whole being and he's so cute and adorable.
Yeah.
And we feel bad for him sometimes, but like it's a nice equal balance because obviously they're in love with each other the entire time, but she's got some stuff to work out and he's got some things that he needs her to figure out too. So I like it. That's why it's my number 5.
So I like it. I agree. It almost made it for mine.
See?
Yeah, it almost made it for mine. I also do want to know I like the idea of like wrong timing, like love as well. Like it was like wrong timing, but you know they found each other again. So
and the cat. I forgot about the cat and the cat. That's a great one.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Thank you. And the song's wonderful.
Yeah.
Songs plural, like the whole like
well, like the Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh wait,
song.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was like, wait.
That one.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, I will go next. So Sweet Home Alabama was almost my top 5 as well. It was between 2 options. I ended up choosing Just Right with Queen Latifah and Common. And if you have not watched it, once again, I realized I didn't say the spoiler alerts all the way around. Just be prepared for like we're gonna be talking about all the movies we drop. But Queen Latifah is rom-com legend in my eyes, even though I know she only did so many, but like the ones that she did do, like Last Holiday and things like that, they stood out. Her and Common's chemistry is A+, so I fully believe everything that's happening in the movie. I love the friends to lovers that we get. It's kind of like low key because of course we meet them, we see them meet, and then they become like kind of like low key friends. And then we see them like naturally connect on interests, which I think is really cool. So you see that like slowly fall in love with each other. And I think, that like pull is really like nice. And it just feels really genuine of how they connect and how they fall in love with each other. And so like I remember like when they first meet at the gas station, I'm already like hee hee ha haing in like the first 15 minutes because like they're just vibing with each other. And it just works. Now I will say Scott McKnight, Common's character, he's stupid. We know this already. Like he is like, dude, you already knew who you were interested in. You see one girl come up here, who plays Queen Latifah's god sister, who is Paula Patton. You see her coming, and then she's like, "Hey," and it's just like over. He's like, okay, it's you. Like, sir, come on. So then obviously he had to like have his mistakes and um but at the end of it all, he realized his errors. And I do appreciate that he finally realizes like who he needs, who he wants, and who's there for him. I also said like we see their relationship grow even more with his injury, and that also makes him see more of like, okay, she's there for me. Like we have the same like vibes. The piano scene's really cute. And then we just see her like there for him, like cheering him on. And I don't know, it's just like really awesome to see as well because she never changes herself for anybody. That was a plot or a theme as well of just like, no one's ever interested in me, like this is the era I have. My god sister's always there. They're looking at her, but they're not looking at me. But she refused to change herself. She's like authentically herself. And we see her have that chance that she was struggling with at the beginning of the movie to like actually fall in love with someone. She does go through that like, oh, I was there and he chose someone else, but eventually he figured it out. So I do appreciate that. Not heavy on the comedy, but there is comedy there. But I would not say it's one of those where it's not a 50-50. But I would say that's why it's more so in my number 5. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, you said it, and I was like, yes, this one makes sense. This one makes sense. Also, yeah, because everything you said, yeah. It's a good movie.
Yeah. All right, Nicole. What's your
Okay.
top 5? What's your number 5?
My number 5 is actually a new movie. It came out in this year of our Lord 2023. So I'm gonna try and keep it a little light on the spoilers, just in case people haven't had the chance to check it out yet. And this is one, when I first watched it, I really enjoyed it. And when I was making this list, I was like, am I just gonna put this on my list because I just watched it and really enjoyed it? But after rewatching everything, I was like, no, this one is really good. The movie I picked for my number 5 is Rye Lane, which is currently streaming on Hulu if anybody hasn't had the chance to watch it. And it's a story about two 20-somethings in South London who connect mostly over one day in the first section of the movie. And they talk about all sorts of things, the weird status of being a young adult and figuring out what you want to be as far as career. Romantically, both characters are dealing with heartbreak and navigating, how do you get out from under that heartbreak? And they are able to connect with each other through that. And though there are some mistakes made, there's definitely that sense of like trying to oversell yourself and uphold what a stranger that you just met thinks of you, and the kind of little white lies that become bigger lies in order to keep up that facade. And when it all comes crashing down of like, and having to come to grips with like, yeah, I wasn't honest with you, and I have to come to grips with that and be more honest with you if you want if we want to hold up this friendship. And they end up kind of being apart for a little bit. And so you get that spoiler alert, you get that finale confessions moment that I thought was really sweet. And there are a lot of really small moments that are super wholesome of like, there are two kinds of people in this world. There are people who wave at boats and there are people who don't. And figuring out what kind of person you want to be with is super important to that. And this movie has a lot of comedy in it. There's some really wild hijinks that they get into on their journey throughout the day. And so much of the way that the film is shot was really intriguing to me. There's a lot of wide lens fisheye moments that give you a really wide perspective on a scene where the characters are moving through it. That is really intriguing, and it can make some kind of mundane moments of just walking through a market have a lot of visual intrigue that was really interesting to me. And the color as well is super beautiful. There are a lot of moments where the bright colors really contrast each other well, and we get one of my favorite things in romance movies, which is the red and the blue couple, where their differences are contrasted. And it's a kind of an interesting match in these two characters of like a really plays everything by ear kind of gal in Yas, and Dom, who's very like, he plans everything out to a T and he never takes any risks ever. And both of them kind of have to learn to grow in their becoming an adult, and in that way they are able to influence each other and grow and change with it without it having that sometimes trope that rom-coms fall into of you have to change in order to get a partner. No, it's more about growth for these two.
Yeah. Such a good choice.
I'm adding it to my list. I haven't watched it.
Oh yeah. So
I
you don't get
seriously
the boat
recommend
scene,
it.
huh? Though you didn't get
No.
the reference. Okay.
No. But
Also, I'm like, a little
it's
bit
here.
for you.
It's on the list.
Yes, definitely recommend. I think that's we see that like the end of the movie chase. It was one of my favorite end of the movie chases. That it made sense to what they had talked about before, versus like we usually get those like airport scenes of somebody like leaving and they're running, and it's like, okay, but you know what's the like we got a deeper connection and meaning for this one, so it's nice.
And it's super interesting to see how a lot of modern movies try and make that chase scene work when you can't really have somebody running through an airport with no ticket and no reason for being there.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Okay. Oh, that's a good one. So far off to a great start. I like these choices. Moving on though to number 4. Going back to Sabrina.
Okay, so it hurts my heart that this one is so low on my list. But it's a genre thing for this one. 10 Things I Hate About You.
Okay.
Because it's one of those teen movies that does make the cut for rom-com, for me at least. And I think like going off of that definition you gave, KaVonna, it does work because that romance is a very big primary focus of the movie. Like the multiple romances that happen all the way through. And it's a comedy. It's one of the reasons it's on this list is because it's literally a version of Taming of the Shrew, which is Shakespeare's comedy. So I love that. I love modern remakes of Shakespeare stories. And so I just love watching it, especially because it's so messy. And it is so over the top late 90s, early 2000s vibes that you're just kind of like, most people don't even know that is Shakespeare reference, even though we have that whole little bit with Michael and Kat's friend off to the side where they're just in love with Shakespeare, where she thinks Shakespeare's in love with her. You have all of that. So I just love seeing all of those little plays being placed into a modern retelling version. And I think it's super, super refreshing. I love it so much. It was my comfort movie. I'd watch it anytime I was like feeling sick, feeling sad. I would just put it on in the background. My family like already knows the opening number to that song. But because it's a teenage one and because it's kind of towing the line, it can't be higher on the list for me.
I see that. Yeah.
Also, young Heath Ledger.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes.
That's like 100%. All I have to say. Young Heath Ledger. Yep. The lack of lines that he has for the first like 40 minutes of the movie, and still he's able to make that huge impact just because of the way that he's like emoting things in those scenes. It's just wonderful. And then when he actually does start, he's just fabulous. The little line, again, I love my endings. And so that line at the end where he's talking about all the different instruments that he can buy for her is super, super cute. And then the reason it also has to make my list is that whole band scene. I think it's one of the most iconic scenes you will see in any kind of rom-com. Rom-coms love their musical numbers. And I think that is one of the most perfectly done musical numbers because you don't see it coming. I feel at least like you don't see it coming. He does such a good job. And it's just so like, it's so young and fun and just carefree at the same time. Like, I think that it's very difficult sometimes for older actors to really encapsulate what it's like to be a teenager. And I think that that's the only moment in the movie where they actually truly feel like teenagers. Because it's just fun. He's just a boy who's trying to get her back. And so he pulls in this favor. And it's like a big favor, but he just has so much fun with it, especially when he's running away from the security guards. And all of the girls, of course, everybody would stop and stare. And I feel like it's just the best part that reminds you like, nope, they're supposed to be teenagers. They are young. Here they are. And it's so good. And her little poem is also so wonderful. And Kat is just a wonderful character the whole entire time, who also does not budge, does not apologize for anything, which I love in my female leads. And so it's just such a good movie. I love it so much.
Can I also add something to that?
Yeah.
We stan a grumpy love interest.
Yes. Yes. They're both grumpy.
Yeah, they are.
And Grumpy Sunshine. It's Grumpy Grumpy.
Grumpy
And it
Grumpy.
works so well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It
And
really
then you've got
does.
the babies on the other side who are just baby and baby
Mhm.
with Bianca, and I always forget the other guy's name. Literally just watched
I
this movie like last week and I always forget this man's name.
Oh yeah.
I don't have the name. If you don't have the name, I don't have the name.
No, I know, and I feel so bad, but
But no, I got you though. Like
he's
those
cute.
are the
With him,
sunshines,
they're
right?
adorable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
the contrast.
I love that.
Mhm.
Quality.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
close, but I think for the same reason that you said, uh, it wasn't in my top five for the like the teenage space of it all, like that weird in between.
Mhm.
But it definitely falls under the iconic like 2000s like rom-com
It's from
time.
99. It's
Oh,
the
see,
same age as me.
Wow.
meant to be.
Yeah.
Good things were made in 99.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and
guys.
there's definitely a streak of rom-coms that have like a almost a third genre that it's kind of occupying a space in. And I'm always torn because I have two on my list that are like, okay, these are rom-coms, but they're also something else. So actually I think you could say three of them, really. But I think it adds a little bit of something so to a rom-com to have a third thing going on as well.
I'm very excited to
Me
get
too.
yours based off of what you said.
If you put warm bodies in there.
Oh
No.
my god.
Okay. I was like,
Okay. I feel like y'all would expect this one. Maybe you wouldn't have expected mine to be at this number. But my fourth is The Wedding Planner. Yes. Now it's not a top one for many people, but it has always been in my top. It was in the top three, and I pushed it back for special reasons that you'll find out later. But one, 2000s Matthew McConaughey, iconic. He was like the dream boy of the time. Yes. Um, they have a great meet cute. One thing for rom-coms is like that meet cute. Like, come on now. Not that I want somebody to savor me from getting hit by a trashman, but like I don't want that to be the case. Also, I would have left the shoe, She wanted that shoe, so go off. But that was a really cute meet cute. And then they have like these really random moments that are still cute. Like you smell like grilled cheese sandwiches and sugar plums or something like that. Like, why would you say that, Mary? And he's like, thanks. And then just it was a perfect meet cute. J-Lo, at that time, she was also like rom-com icon of the time, like we got Made in Manhattan, which didn't make my list, but like she was really doing the rom-com thing at that time. So like give a shout out for her too, because like she was really playing her parts. I also want to give a shout out to the rom-com supporting character, Judy Greer. I give her all her credit and all her flowers. She is in so many rom-coms and she's always a supporting character and she never fails to do her job. So I love me some Judy Greer. And then we also get Dr. Alex Karev as Massimo, aka Justin Chambers. Like, come on now. Now that is a whole being. Massimo is a whole being. Now, does he get his heart broken? Yes. But he was a little bit naive. He didn't know any better. Like she was not in love with you, she shouldn't have really played into the role, but I think there was also we get the idea of like familial pressures of needing to be married and needing to start a family, and she was kind of under that as well. So I like that plot theme, and then also to like getting Massimo, then we get like also where he's coming from on his side of familiar pressures as well. But then like just him being a wholesome being and like eventually like he wants the best for her no matter what. Once he finally realizes like the truth, he's just like, you know what, girl, do you, like I want what's best for you, and I like that. I'm aware of the issues at play. Yes. Dr. Steve is engaged. So I'm aware of that. He's not the best. Now, in regards to rom-com characters and male leads, he is not the best one. He is not the greatest. I am aware of that. But Matthew McConaughey plays him so well. I'm convinced of their chemistry, and I'm convinced of like his adoration for her, even though he shouldn't have any, because he is engaged. Um, but I do kind of like I the how am I trying to say this? The storylines that we've seen, and this happens a lot, also wrong timing. And it does kind of like we watch them and sometimes like, darn, like this sucks. Like Steve and his fiance, I can't think of her name right now. They got together also in a way of familiar pressures, which is interesting. Needing to be with like the brightest and like the most successful person. And they had always been around each other, so they were just like, let's get married, let's be together. And then he eventually meets Mary, and then things kind of like start to shift in his head, and he's like, what's going on? I don't know, this is new to me. So that does become an issue of like wrong timing, but what's the right thing for you to do? But I do think, hey, I would prefer him to have broken up before the wedding versus like get married and like have that like thought process the rest of his life. And at least there wasn't anything that necessarily happened between their like flirtationship. At least he like, because I've seen other movies where like they kissed or they did something else. Like at least he did not do that. But like the first error he made was going to the carnival when they invited him. Like, sir, you should have not gone to the movie viewing when they invited you. Like that was just the first mistake. And then there was an almost kiss. Shout out to the rain. But it was an almost kiss. So I don't know. But I do, it's just, yeah, right? Right, Sabrina? Like it just
yeah, I just pictured that scene in my brain and I was like, you're right.
Yeah, it's very feel good. They have a beautiful dancing scene moment where she finds out that he's engaged to her client. And that's like awesome. I love that moment. Once again, the chemistry there is A plus plus. The comedy, it comes from Massimo, but also Mary's dad and Mary's dad's friends. My favorite one is Mary's dad's friend. He's always rooting for Mary. They're part of like the little chess club. Or, no, not the Scrabble club.
Scrabble.
Yeah, Scrabble club. And like he's always supportive for her. So when he's like she's getting married to who? Like she's never been with somebody, and she's like, oh, the dad's like, oh, to Massimo. He's like, Massimo, other kind of Momo. I don't know who this Mo is. Like, what is going on? And I was like, that's so funny. Like just like little simple things. So that is why it's in my number 4. It's not the most the best of it all, but it's just so feel good. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's my 4.
You were going through the whole meet cute, and I went, what is KaVonna gonna mention? It's the perfect, except he's engaged.
Yeah, I was like, I got to.
I was just waiting. I was like, ma'am.
I had to mention it. Yeah.
Yeah, staple of Rom Coms.
Yeah.
Especially wedding themed Rom Coms.
That's true. Also like I guess it's low-key kind of like trope, like a boss lady breaks out of like romantic shell kind of thing. Yeah. So for sure. All right, Nicole, what's your number 4?
Different.
Speaking of boss ladies breaking out of their shell, that's one of the 2 protagonists in this movie, which my number 4 is The Holiday from 2006. So I said kind of has a third genre in being kind of a Christmas themed movie. But I rewatched this one just yesterday because I was like, I feel like I remember it, but I want to have the full effect. And this one, I was surprised it didn't rank higher on my list because I remember it so fondly. But this movie does a lot of really interesting things with the dual protagonist storyline. I've seen a lot of movies that try and do that, and it really doesn't work because they just don't have enough time for everything. But they managed to take the formation of 2 couples plus a couple of B-plot storylines like Arthur and Iris getting to know him and make it all work. And even things like Miles, who's played by Jack Black, who's one of my favorite characters in this movie, his romantic struggles and falling out with his partner, then coming around to the end because he's been developing these feelings for Iris, right in the end of the movie, getting the chance to ask her out. And it includes one of my favorite moments, which again, because of Jack Black, where he says, so can I take you out on New Year's? And she's like, okay. And he goes, yes, which is so funny. Another reason that I think this movie ranked on my list is because it does some really interesting things with the medium of film, because it has Amanda, who's one of the main characters, is a trailer maker. So they'll occasionally cut in her thinking of what is the trailer of my life and using that as a way to kind of assess what's going on for her as she is taking this last minute holiday over Christmas and New Year's to try and get over her recent breakup, and then meeting Kate Winslet's brother, whose name I can't remember. Graham.
Yeah, it's Jude Law.
Jude Law. Jude Law, who's another standout actor in this movie. Yes. And, you know, kind of her trailer of her life going from a sad, lonely loser girl boss lady to finding new love and what that means for her, and opening up emotionally, which is a very interesting, like, main character emotional through line that I always enjoy. And it's in a lot of rom-coms that have that girl boss main character, sometimes they can kind of biff it, but with this one, you really get to see like where that started for her and how she is even thinking of it as she moves through her life of like, I'm an ice queen, and is that ruining this relationship that she has in the beginning of the movie, and is that keeping her from forming connections with other people and things like that. Also, the music in it is amazing, which is another kind of through line, because you have Miles, who is he composes music for movies, and even writes a couple of theme songs for some of the characters, which is very lovely. And then walking through the blockbuster with Jack Black holding up different movies and scatting the themes is amazing. And I had one last thing on this list. The actors and the acting, I always enjoy. Kate Winslet is amazing as this super sensitive and emotional Iris who's getting over a very kind of toxic relationship with a coworker of hers who has just gotten engaged but is still trying to keep her on the line because he needs her. And getting rid of those kind of toxic relationships so she can move on with her life and do her own thing instead of just always being at this guy's beck and call, even though he's literally engaged to be married to someone else.
The plot comes in again.
Exactly.
Yep.
And all the actors all do a fantastic job, and I just really enjoy it. And it surprisingly balances both the comedic and the romantic with the two storylines really well. Sometimes you get a little bit of unbalance between them. Like, I think that Amanda and Graham's romantic storyline is more on the romance, less on the comedy, whereas you have Iris and Miles with more comedy, less romance. But by the end, I think that it all kind of shakes out, and not every romance is the same. So I like how it has a good variation while still having an even tone overall.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
It's a really good movie.
It is. Thought about that.
Yeah.
Thought about it.
That one would have made my list, except I was like, it's a little more too Christmassy.
I was gonna say
that's what I was thinking as
Sabrina,
well.
Is this a Christmas movie?
Shut up. Yes, it is.
I don't know. I could argue with you on that.
There'll be a time.
Sure.
Yeah, another episode.
But it's a Christmas movie that like hits any time of the year.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually forget that it's a Christmas movie, and then I put it on and I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because half of it they're in Los Angeles, which the only thing I will say is, as someone who lives near Los Angeles, it is a little too sunny and a little too warm there for it to be actually winter.
But you have the Santa Ana winds that they mention every 5 seconds.
Exactly. Like, literally anytime they're outside, it's like
they had to remind you.
This is Southern California.
Okay, we're gonna try to move this one up a little bit faster. But I'm gonna move on to our top 3 choices. I'm curious to see now that we're in our top 3, if we start to see a little bit more blending happening. But Sabrina, go ahead and release your number 3.
The Proposal.
Okay.
This one used to be my number 1. It sat at number 1 for, I want to say, like a good 10 solid years.
Okay.
And it wasn't until like the last few years that it got booted down to number 3. But if anyone asks me what is a quintessential rom-com, I'm new to the genre, or what should I watch, I'm going to send them this way. Gonna send them this
I
way
agree.
because it has all the tropes. God, it's just tropes galore. Um, she's his boss. She says they're in a fake relationship. They go home for the weekend. He and cannot stand her. She doesn't really like him. So it's a really actually genuinely good enemies to lovers because they are not friends. No one is pining after the other person, at least a little bit. It's not like, oh, I like you, so I'm going to be mean to you. And the other person thinks, it's not any of that. It's genuine. They do not like each other. She has no appreciation for him. And he literally calls her the devil at times to his family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it just does such a good job of it. They sleep in one bed.
That's a trope.
Like,
forced proximity.
They have to have that first, forced proximity. They have to have that first kiss in front of everybody. And then that first kiss moment where they're kind of like, wait a minute. And then her realizing that, like, he comes from money. He's in this assistant position. And she's like, hello? Why did you not tell me any of this? And then the family's like, yeah, we own half the town. Duh. And it also has just so many genuinely good quotes. So many good things. The reason it used to be my number one is because my best friend and I in high school, we used to quote that whole like tribal chant scene. Grandma Annie honestly was all we would do, but we would do like the song. And then we would do the part where Ryan Reynolds, where he comes in and he goes, you're a freak, like that all the time. Anytime we were being slightly like weird, we would just reference it all the time. And also Grandma Annie is one of the best familial characters I think that exists in any rom-com, because she so solidly moves the plot along and she's just so genuinely funny. Betty White is like, that's that.
Shout out to Betty
I know
White.
for a lot of people, Golden Girls is like one of the reasons they fell in love with her. For me, it's The Proposal. That was like one of the first things I saw her in. It was one of the first, like, and she's just so good. The ancestors can take me now. I don't think they're ready for me. Wonderful, brilliant. And then we have that chase too. So like I said, it's just tropes galore. That's like the main reason. It's just there. Because he goes and he flies after her and he doesn't make it. And then he gets to the office and she's like, what, did you run from Alaska? And then he has that whole thing also. Spoiler alert. But like I said, anyone listening is going to notice a common thread in these three movies for me. But that ending confession, date or marry me because I want to date you.
Yes, that was on my
take me out. Take me right there. Right there. It's just so good. Also, I think it's believable. They're not 100%. Like 100% in love forever. And they get married because obviously she's going to get deported. But like, they get married so they can date and they can see if they're going to stay married. Like, I feel like it's more believable. Obviously, it's still kind of crazy. It all happens over a weekend. But like, I can see how they go from that point of I cannot stand you to I appreciate you to you are a wonderful human being who I have these feelings for. Like, it actually plays out very, very well. Along with being just like super funny the whole time. Like, what's his name?
I know.
He gives me a lot of secondhand embarrassment the entire movie, but he is also somebody who pops up a lot.
True.
What is it, Ramon?
Oh, I think you're right.
Ramon.
Yeah. And he does pop up a lot.
It's Ramon. And then you have him in the background just like popping in his 2 cents, being everything all at once, being that small town person who does everything. Yeah. Number 3. That's my number 3.
Solid choice. I did want to say, I thought about this as you said this, as you were talking about the movie. There's not many rom-coms that I would like a sequel on because they don't need to be. But this is one rom-com where I would love to see what their life looks like, because we literally just got the very, very, very beginnings of it all. It wasn't like, it was like you said, like enemies to lovers, but like one was already in love, so we know that they're going to be in love forever. Like, I would love to see, like, we already know the banter is not going to stop. They're going to be at each other's heads, even if as a married couple. Like, it never. I would love to see that. 100%.
There are many common threads apparently in my top 5.
It's good. It's a good one. In similarity, my top third choice is Leap Year.
Oh.
And it's kind of enemies to lovers, but like they haven't known each other long enough. So I call it kind of like annoyance to love in a way. Um, and we also get like an opposites attract because like we get like the uptight main character versus like the really chill, sarcastic character. Because she's got a plan. She knows exactly what she wants. Give a shout out to Amy Adams and Matthew Good for their characters, Declan and Anna. We also get a fake relationship trope where they have to kiss. We also get forced proximity in this as well, because they gotta sleep in the same bed together, because you know they go on this long adventure and things do not go the way it's supposed to go. They end up staying at someone else's house to at least have a room for the night. I don't know what this trope is called, but we also get like a ruined almost kiss where she throws up on him. We've seen things like this before. I don't know what that name is, but that's where we get that comedy factor of like you just messed it up, girl. And then what I love about the comedy of it all is like Declan is the sarcastic butthole. Like Declan is not here to make anybody's life easier. He is a butthole. The minute she's like, "Hey, can I get a cab?" and he's like, "Yeah, go ahead and call this number," and he's the number, like, sir. Like you could have made this so much easier and you're just out here messing up people's lives. I want to give a shout out to Louis, the suitcase. Because why did he give the suitcase a name? Because he didn't know what Louis Vuitton was. I just thought that was super funny. We get like I don't know, we also like banter. But like she's not as like hardcore, so she's also kind of like why are you like this, you know? So for me he's just like the iconic love interest of like, oh, you're a butthole but I like you, you know? Like I appreciate your sarcastic humor. And we do get to see his shell soften as he starts to fall in love with Anna. And like the scene where they walk up to like the old castle waiting for the train and they just kind of like talk for a second. That's really beautiful. And then we get the comedy of, oh, their train's coming and they're sliding down a whole entire hill and they don't make it. So that's really awesome. I just love the movie. And so that's why I switched it with Wedding Planner because I think of what I love in like stories. And I love a good enemies to lovers, hate to lovers, annoyance to lovers movie. And Declan, while he is a butthole, partially valid in his responses because Loki Anna is a butthole as well, just in different levels and different ways with each other. Because they're kind of like Loki opposites attract, they just butt heads. And that's what just iconic. So at some point I would love to go to Ireland and meet the love of my life at a pub. Yeah, that's
a leap year next year.
Yeah.
Oh, Tia.
Now's your time.
Yes. Let me get my money together now. That's so true. Thank you, Sabrina, for the lovely idea.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, Nicole, what is your number 3?
This is one that I wanted to put on my list, but then it wasn't until I watched it again that I was like, oh, this is ranking higher than I thought it would. It's a 1999 classic that also kind of has a third genre of being like a YA, but also kind of a parody of it. And it's But I'm a Cheerleader, which is it is a rom-com. Don't laugh at me, Sabrina. Watch that movie.
Hold up.
I have.
It's surprisingly hilarious for the topic at hand. Basically, Megan, the main character, thinks that she is a normal 17-year-old high schooler. She has a boyfriend that she doesn't enjoy kissing, and she loves going to cheer practice more than anything else. And it isn't until her family and friends have an intervention for her and accuse her of being a lesbian that she ever thought of that word in relation to herself. And they actually send her to straight conversion camp, which you'd think would be a heavy topic that should not be a rom-com. But the amount of parody and style that this movie has does a lot to add a lot of levity to a really serious, normally a really serious plot device in a movie. Because though the heteronormativity is high at this place and some of the things that they say are just cruel, it's actually hilarious to watch because they do a great job of parodying the heteronormative ideas of like, oh, well, here, how do you cure gayness? Well, we'll just have you reject your gayness completely and learn how to be a proper person of your gender. So they teach really heteronormative gender ideals in women wear pink and clean the floors and do cooking, and men go to work and wear blue. And it's so it's surprisingly hilarious. And it's only through the main romance that the main character Megan, by falling for another girl that is in the camp, really learns to accept herself. And actually by the end of the movie, she is the one giving that end of the movie great speech about love and accepting yourself in her little cheer costume as a way to convince Graham that this is not the life that she wants for herself. She deserves to be happy and live her truth. And it was another movie that on the rewatch, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it, because I knew that it's one that I think of fondly, but maybe not one that I would return to with fondness. But my little gay heart, it really hits that point for me. And it's another one that has great style. The set design is just beautiful.
Okay. I've never watched it. I had to search it up. I didn't, so I'm adding it to my list. I do love Natasha Lyonne. So I will definitely check it out.
RuPaul is in this movie, and I remember as a kid, when I first watched this movie, my mom had to explain to me who RuPaul was, because she was surprised to see RuPaul not in drag, and then had to explain to me and my little siblings what drag was.
Got it. Okay.
My sister had me watch it, of course.
Yeah.
And so I did not know RuPaul was in it, and so when it happened, I was like, "Is that?" And he was like, "Yes." I was like,
and he plays ex-gay Mike, and it's like,
yes. Also, you forgot to mention all of the tasks are the men like doing outside work or handiwork as well, and so
or playing sports.
So many innuendos.
Oh yeah,
so many.
Oh yeah. That's the other thing, is that it's not just a movie about like sexless gay love. It is the amount of gay lust that plays into the storyline in a way that isn't like, I think there's a lot of fear of gay lust in the current like media world. Like, it needs to be a really sanitized version of gay love, but this is a movie that does not shy away from it. It is literally part of the reason that the characters are able to like come to terms and accept themselves is, Natasha Lyonne puts on that adorable little cheer costume and is like, "Graham, come get me. You deserve to be happy." It's so cute. It's so cute.
Okay, I'm gonna add it to my list. I gotta see. All right, we have come to our top 2 choices. Sabrina, please reveal your number 2.
Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Okay.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I don't remember if I've had you guys watch this one or not.
We have.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the reason I watched it. Yeah.
So a huge reason why this one has booted like the proposal down a notch and gotten up into the top 2 is like that personal connection. Like I understand Tula on a deep spiritual level when it comes to a big ethnic like cultural family, and so like there are little tiny lines where she just talks about like the way it works, or just like that you grow up Greek, you find a nice Greek boy, you marry a nice Greek boy, you have lots of nice Greek babies, like sub that in with Catholic. There you are. There you go, as the little dad says in the whole movie. And it's just like a huge family, and they all love each other so much that it's just so intense, and she just doesn't want it sometimes. And it's also just like that balance. I think they do a really, really nice job of like talking about what it's like to grow up in an area where you are the only person who is not, or like you are in the minority. When they call her baklava, moose kaka, and she's made fun of the entire time. She's like a child because she is so Greek, because her family is unapologetically Greek. Like they have the mini Parthenon, they have the flag on their garage door, and they are just so proud of who they are and where they come from, and they never apologize for it. And she has to come to terms with it. And I feel like Ian the whole time is so chill with it. He's like, yeah, this is your family. this is who you are, this is where you come from, and I love you, and I'm going to love them. I'm already starting to love them. And she's the one who has to kind of come to terms with the fact that like her culture and her background is beautiful as well. And that's another reason I love it so much too. Like this has been a big point of conversation for a lot of like on RomCom community on TikTok and stuff, is like when they talk about Big Fat Greek Wedding, Tula falls in love with herself first.
Mm-hmm.
She has this huge growth and development because she wants to better herself. She wants to learn. She wants to go back to school. When she starts to go back to school and she feels good about herself, then she starts to take care of herself outwardly. She learns to figure out like, how do I do my hair? How do I do my makeup? I'm going to start wearing contacts. But it's a love story for her and herself first.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how she gets Ian. So I also love like that too. It's where like Ian falls in love with that confidence and with that person.
Yeah.
That she was just kind of keeping inside for a very, very long time. And then I think it just reinforces her beliefs as well. It's not like, oh, I'm pretty now, and that's why he noticed me. It's like he loves who she is as a person. And so that reinstates like that idea of Tula growing and becoming the person that she's always meant to be. Mm-hmm. And it's just so funny the entire time throughout. It's just hilarious. Like the blending of the families is a great one, with Ian always being told these wrong Greek terms and announcing it to the whole family. With their meet cute, the two separate ones, where she meets him for the first time, she can't say a word and she's ignoring his friend, only serving him food. Literally, he's the only one who gets food. And then when they meet again and she gets yanked back by her little headset and he gets beaten up by the old lady outside, the whole thing is just so good. And he just loves her so much. That is a movie where you can really see like he does everything for her. And she is just always just like, I can't believe I'm so lucky. And it's just so good. And it also just makes me so happy. My family and I quote that movie all the time. My dad, instead of Windex, we're Hispanic, so it's vaparu, it's sipol. It's that'll fix everything. Don't worry. My dad, it's drink milk. Milk will fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
So like it just is nice to see a portrayal of a big family who's a little overbearing sometimes, but loves you at heart.
Mm-hmm.
Like just loves you to death. And it's just a huge celebration. It's so fun. It's why I'm so excited for the third movie that's coming out, even though, do they need sequels? No, they do not. Am I going to eat up the sequels? Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's just, that's one of the ones where it makes my heart happy.
Okay. I didn't even know a third one was coming out. So good to know. Did we watch? I think we watched the second one together. Yes? No,
it's about their kid, and she's going off to college, and that came out when I was going off to college. So I was like, "Wow, Big Fat Greek Wedding! Look at you."
I think I watched it on my own. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because after we watched the first one together, I think I found it and watched the second one. Okay, because I remember watching the second one. Okay. I'm not going to talk too much about my second one because it was already mentioned. But my number 2 choice is The Proposal. Surprise, surprise. The reason being is, one, this is also like a feel-good comedy for me. It just brings me pure joy when I watch it. I love Sandra Bullock. She is like one of like the celebrities that I just like, I want her to hug me and just hold me, and she just vibes. I love every 2000s movie she's ever done. And like pretty much almost everything she's ever done, kind of all about. I highly doubt I've watched everything she's ever done, but like it comes pretty darn close. Ryan Reynolds, once again, he was in the rom-com world of that time as well. This is one of my favorite rom-coms that he did during that time. And then also, of course, Betty White, like she did her thing when she played the name
Grandma Annie.
Thank you, Grandma Annie. I do want to note, like, I love the fact that we get, like, once again, a sarcastic love interest. I already said I love kind of like a butthole. And then we also get the uptight love interest. I realized that didn't sound like that. I'm gonna continue. Uptight love interest. So who eventually does go soft. Yeah. She does her
You said it with such a straight face. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
We were doing so well.
Yeah, she's hardcore. And she like kind of melts. I can't look at y'all. Let me finish this. Turned away. Um, and then there's some solid opening scenes that I think are really cool that we get to open up and see who they are as people. Um, like the fact that he literally switches her coffee when his messes up because he's afraid of her is like that tells the tale right there. And then we get like the closing credits are like full comedy when everybody's getting interviewed in the immigration office. That's A plus plus. I also put Marry Me Because I Like to Date You because it's a perfect blend of romance and comedy right there. And then my favorites, I'll talk about my favorites real quick. The telling of the engagement, when they're in the they're in the living room and they talk about it. Iconic because it also shows their character like neither one of them are like down for what either of them are saying. So we still get that battle with each other. The bag scene with the when they're heading to the boat and she's like, I don't need your help. And he's like, well, and then we get that. And then I also love that when they first go to the immigration office, my favorite part is when she's like, oh, like where are you going? Where's the party at? And they're like, and she's like, Sitka. And he's like, Alaska. Like, what? Where are we going? Like, so that was just really good acting on Sandra's part. Um, yeah, just a super feel good movie, and it's great. So that's my number 2.
Yeah, I actually considered that one, but I didn't keep it on my list because I knew it would be on both of yours. So, which gonna make for some interesting ones.
Yeah,
it's a solid one. If all three of us thought of it,
it truly is. That's the perfect. They do the like you said earlier, the perfect 50-50. That's an example of like perfect 50-50 for me.
And also the amount of classic tropes that show up in it.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yes. All right. Nicole, what is your number 2?
This one is the controversial one, I think. But not for the reasons you think. It is technically a rom-com. It surprisingly has it has the rom-com story beats. So you can't fight me on this one. I will not accept it. It is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Okay.
Yeah, seriously, watch the trailer. Okay. They cut the trailer like a very standard rom-com. And normally a rom-com that is kind of that like everyman loser guy gets the girl of his dreams for no reason at all really annoy me. But this movie, it manages to work its way into my heart. And the reason it's on this list, very biasedly, it is one of my favorite movies, period. Because it just has an amazing style. And it's one of those ones that's a lot more comedy than it is romance, but it is just amazing. It uses a lot of video game and anime aesthetics to tell the story. It's based off of a graphic novel of the same name. It follows the romance of Scott Pilgrim and Ramona Flowers, and Ramona is like the quintessential manic pixie dream girl, but she has some depth to her that I think is really nice. And they're actually going to be coming out with an animated version of it with all the original actors soon, which I'm very excited for. And one of the reasons that, like, on reflection, I was like, this is a rom-com and it's a rom-com I really enjoy is because of the hero's journey. Like, one of my least favorite parts of the movie is Scott Pilgrim because he's not a great person. He is really selfish throughout the movie and very single-minded in his pursuit of Ramona and just wanting to be with her for almost no reason at all, except for that he has a dream of her. And it, by the end, forces him to grow in order to beat the boss at the end. Like, he actually has to essentially replay the boss level because the first time he is coming at it with the power of love and he's just going to use his desire for Ramona to win, but that's not enough. He has kind of screwed up almost every single one of his relationships with the other characters because he has not been thinking about anyone but himself. And it's only by using his extra life and coming back to that boss battle and then moving and growing even more to the power of self-respect, where he's able to atone for a lot of the horrible things that he's done before the movie and during it, apologize to all the characters that are there, and especially apologize to Knives, who is his girlfriend in the beginning of the movie that he cheats on to be with Ramona. And it's something that as I rewatch the movie, it's one of the only parts where I'm like, come on, man, you should have done better. But that he says to her, comes to grips with that, it is like, Ramona didn't hurt you, Knives. I hurt you by cheating on you. And he admits to cheating on both of them because he was juggling two girls. And it's one of those things that, like, as much as Scott as the character annoys me, that moment is really defining of, like, yeah, this is a romance that forces the main character to grow in order to earn his happy ending. And that, plus the amazing style, the great music, and the amazing Edgar Wright's directorial style is always going to hit for me. So that's why it's number 2 on my list.
Okay.
Is this the one that's you have to fight my 7 evil exes?
Yes.
Is that where that audio comes from? Oh,
yes.
We gotta watch it. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
You have to.
I know.
I've never seen it either.
Oh my gosh! Total spoiler alert. But it's
at this point,
I had a feeling that it was gonna end with a happy ending.
Yeah, and actually, fun fact about the movie and the graphic novel, it doesn't end the same way as the movie. But when they did the original ending, audiences were like, "What the hell?" Because it didn't have the, like, standard romance movie happy ending, and because it is 99% of a romance up until that point, audiences were like, what is happening? And they had to recut it. And I think the movie ending I like a little bit more for the story that it tells. The graphic novels, because they're graphic novels and there's a lot more of them, have the chance to do a couple different things. But yeah, I thought it was really nice. And it is, Scott has to defeat her 7 evil exes in order to earn her love. And it's also a really interesting, I guess, metaphor on some level of, like, having to deal with a new partner's, like, relationship baggage whenever you start a new relationship. Everybody kind of has those wounds from past relationships that you have to, on some level, deal with, especially if that person is not dealing with it themselves. So
Cool. Yeah, it's been on my list for a very long time. I just never have gotten to it. So we should definitely watch it at some point.
Yes.
But that time has come now. It's time to reveal our number 1 choices for our romantic comedies. It could be a very make or break situation. So let's see. Sabrina, what is your number 1?
My number 1 is Set It Up.
Okay.
This is a recent development. This is a development that happened. Oh goodness, when did this movie come out? I think, like, in the last, like, 2-3-ish years.
I would say 2021 maybe.
I want to say it's a very new movie.
2018.
And
it's a 2018 film, but we watched it.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But we watched it recently.
I discovered it during the pandemic, I believe.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's one of a lot of rom-coms that have been coming out in the last, like, 5-6-ish years just don't hit the same way that the older ones do. It doesn't have that same quality to it that I can't even put a name on. But we've discussed this, like, 90s and 2000s movies have something about them that just feels so good. And it's just done so well. Even if it is the worst writing imaginable, it just works. And this is the first, like, modern one that I've seen where it felt the same way. The writing is not perfect. There are many moments where I go, dear Lord, this is how we talk now. Okay, that's great. But it just does it so beautifully. Like, the whole situation, the fact that they are setting up their bosses is just a gold mine of material just right there, as they are, like, puppeteering these people together. And I just love that they are friends. Like, they are genuinely friends first. They become best friends. And that's how they start to, like, fall for each other. Even though she's, like, still trying to see other people, he's helping her with that relationship. She's like, hey, you're not in a great relationship and you deserve better. But he's got to figure that out for himself. I love that they have this beautiful friendship that starts from, like, this not great idea, this not perfect idea. I also just love Zoe Doge. I love her. I love her character. I think that I'm a sucker for the like writer. I love the rom-coms that have that writer in it. And she's a sports journalist. Like that's
Mhm.
what she wants to do. This girl loves sports. She's cries when it's a beautiful game. Like she goes to the Yankee Stadium and she ends up being late because she got overwhelmed by buying stuff. Yes, yes,
Like you can
I
relate.
love it so much. And like I love that line that she says too, where she's like, guys think they want girls who like sports, but they don't.
Mm.
And she goes into that whole explanation. She checks him constantly because he is that white straight man. He really is. He's not my favorite male lead. I don't think he's particularly romantic, but I also like that as well. I like that he's not remotely what we expect from these rom-com leads. Um, because that's all he does. He is constantly being like, you need to know your worth, you need to play this game because love is a game now.
Mhm.
And then she's always like, you need to just stop being so terrible. Like, do you hear yourself? Do you hear what you are saying?
Mhm.
And eventually he does figure out. And then she does get like this boost of confidence as well. At the end, we see her actually writing out her little article and everything. And I love the best friend and the things that like her little speech at her engagement party where she's talking about liking someone and loving someone and how both of them have to exist at the same time. Um, and so loving someone despite all of these flaws, that idea too. I like how that continually plays throughout the whole movie. And it's just feel good. Like this one has replaced 10 Things I Hate About You as the movie I go to whenever I need to feel a little bit better because I think it's just so funny. And there are some scenes where I'm just like, dear Lord, I don't know who came up with this idea, but it just works so, so well. And Lucy Liu.
Yeah.
Lucy Liu is
And Taye
also
Diggs.
the boss in there.
Yeah.
The bosses.
Yes.
Mhm.
So it's just I love it. And I love that it's not super trope heavy either, because it really isn't.
True.
It's not, it doesn't fit into a lot of the conventional rom-com ideas because it's a modern take, but it has that same core like 2000s feeling to it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's my number one.
All right. Set it up. I should rewatch it because I've only watched it once. So that should be something to do again.
Seen it so many times. So many times.
In contrast to modern day rom-coms, my rom-com, and I highly doubt it's a surprise to either of you two.
I wonder what it is.
13 going on 30.
Yay!
30, flirty, and thriving. We've got the Razzles. Fun fact, I tried Razzles for the first time within the past year. They're good. The whole gum thing though throws me off because my body wants to like swallow it. So that's where it draw the line. We get the dollhouse. We get the red shirt scene with the dollhouse. We get the thriller dress. It's just like iconic. It's the iconic rom-com of the 2000s. For me, though, it is truly like a feel-good movie in all ways and shapes. And like any age can really connect to it. When I first saw it, I was nowhere near like 30, nor was I anywhere near like even like 20. If I was 13 or even younger, probably. And I just remember being like, oh yeah, like relating to Jenna in a sense of, oh, wanting to be older, but not too old. And then watching that movie and being like, well, maybe being an adult isn't the vibe. Maybe I need to find a good in-between, like like that she taught us some things. And then you can relate to it now that we're older, and what does that look like? We could see like the struggles and realities of adulthood. And then we also see like what those successes look like for Jenna and for other characters in the movie. So speaking of other characters, once again, shout out to Miss Judy Greer, B plot character once again. This time instead of being she's the mean girl. So that was a good little switcheroo. I want to give a shout out to the album. The great songs in this movie. It's a feel good movie, and when I want to like have a feel good moment, I play that playlist. And everything's just like incredibly like wholesome and sweet. Jenna is and Maddie is. I do want to say like Jennifer Garner and Mark have great chemistry. I fell in love with Mark Ruffalo in 13 Going on 30. Like young Mark Ruffalo is iconic to me. And he definitely was like one of my like first like celeb crushes of like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. Like that was me. And then I just also, in regards to like Sandra Bullock, same thing for Jennifer Garner. I just love Jennifer Garner. Like she's just like of energy. And so what I love about this movie is like Maddie being fully in love with Jenna. Yes, it takes Jenna a minute to realize it. She does love him, but I think she does, she's in love with him as well, but it takes her a minute to realize that. Um, and also their love for each other is like never ending, no matter what has happened, no matter the time that we see that expands. Like I'm thinking now as I'm getting closer to 30, like if someone from high school came up to me at 30 and was like, "Hey, we're friends, right? And I haven't talked to you since high school. What are you talking about? Why are you at my door?" Like he was so like he was like, "Hey, like okay, sure, come on in. Here's some water. You know, you could look at the yearbook." Like he was just like super genuine and just him as a person, Maddie as a person is just like the for me he's the go-to like male lead. So completely opposite in the sense of like the sarcastic male who loves to like ruin people's day. Like I'm not he was the guy who came through for her at any turn. And I love the once again the iconic thriller scene. We get the comedy in that scene with the B plot characters and them kind of like goofing off. And then we also get like the pull of Maddie's situation of also being engaged and then but also like feeling like, oh man, I think I'm still in love with her. Like, okay, like so then we go into the part of like the Why Can't I scene. Shout out to Why Can't I by Liz Phair. Great song. We get that scene sequence of once seeing Maddie fall in love with her over time. Jenna being like the cute, like in the balloons and the leaves, just kind of like goofing off and having a good time. She's just such a wholesome being. And then when we get back to real timing, we see Jenna and Maddie together. Um, what I want to say is this. So one, he makes her a dollhouse. He puts in time, he puts in money, and not only that, he kept it all of those years. And then I love that we see at the end when they do get together in the different form of reality, they live in that dollhouse, and it's just so cute. But one thing in my rewatch that did make me kind of like tear up when Jenna is like, hey, it goes to the wedding and is like, "Hey, Maddie, like, you know, let's give this a chance. Like, if you really do think this is like the right move," and he's like, once again, Maddie being a good person, like, I'm engaged, I've made my commitment. We felt something, but this is of the past now. You know, we have to be honest with each other. And he gives her the dollhouse because he kept it all those years. Gives it to her, she holds it, and she's crying, and he's just like, you know, and she's like, "I love you, Maddie." And you know what he says? "Jenna, I've always loved you." It's over. Like that's what made me start tearing up yesterday, because it's like we see that as the audience, but like she saw it too late. And it's just such a good one. It's my good go-to movie because we get like the themes of like once again struggles of adulthood, life, the issues that come with that, pressures when you're even like a child, teenage pressures, and then like pressures as an adult. Then we also just get like their struggle and their pull, push and pull of like their love story. So that's mine.
Nice.
Nice.
All right, Nicole.
Okay, bring it in with my number one. This one, I rewatched it and it had to go in my number one because not only is it a movie that I still enjoy all these years later, but it has literally almost every single rom-com trope on the list. Like it's checking boxes in every category. And it is 27 Dresses.
Wow. Yay! I'm so glad it made it to someone's list because it was number 6. Oh, yes.
Okay. It I was so shocked because it had been many years since I watched it, so I didn't remember all of the details, and I'm like, literally every level. We've got characters who work in publishing and journalism. We have living in New York. We have a meet cute that includes like light physical comedy of being knocked to the ground and knocked out. We have being hopelessly in love with your boss in an unrequited way. We have a Filofax Cinderella slipper that she leaves behind in her cab that starts the whole thing off, basically. We have a dead mom trope, which is in almost every movie. We have the crass coworker / best friend. Shout out to Judy Greer sponsoring this whole top 5 list. We have somebody who doesn't believe in love but is secretly a romantic. We have borderline stalking. We have lying to somebody to get them to fall in love with you. We had the final act rushing chase scene to try and find somebody and share your feelings with them. The climactic love speech. Yeah, we have an epilogue wedding. We have everything. And it has at the center of it like a really, really nice sentiment. Like it's not on its face. It's kind of like it's making fun of the always the bridesmaid, never the bride trope. Well, I guess not trope, but like the label that gets put on women who are really into weddings and romance, but don't have their own love life to kind of pin their desires on. But it takes it and does something with it. You know, Jane is not a character that is just kind of like shallowly into weddings. Like she really at a deep level sees it as like being there for somebody on their day and allowing it to be all about them and their perfect day because of the supportive people around you. And her speech where she talks about, and when it's my time, I'll have all those people there for me. And that she keeps all the dresses not because she thinks that they're lovely fashion items, but because they're attached to really tender memories for her. And it just is such a feel-good movie. And I also appreciate that Jane is not the perfect main character. She has her struggle of like the first time she's being the maid of honor for a wedding that she isn't really into because it's her sister Tess and her boss who she's been in love with, George, and she knows that a lot of their relationship is built up on Tess not telling him the truth about who she is and what she likes. So she has this constant struggle of like, but this is my sister and this is my boss who I have feelings for. And I really appreciate how it all works together. And the ultimate moment where you get really sold on James Marsden and like, what is his character's name? Kyle? And him giving her the BlackBerry and saying, I think you deserve to be taken care of for a change instead of her taking care of everybody else in her life is like, now that is a line. And then he's just like, and bye. You deserve to be taken care of for a change. Goodbye. So that's why it made my top 1 because it is literally the most quintessential rom-com movie of all time to me. And it's really cute.
It is. It's so good.
Also, Catherine, another person who was like in rom-com world for a bit.
Yes. Oh yeah, iconic.
Yes.
And this movie was so iconic to my family. You all know this. We refer to a lot of actors not by their names or character names, but by random movies that they're in. And so Katherine Heigl in my family is called 27 Dresses.
As you should.
Yeah. Honestly, I hear Benny and the Jets, and all I think is 27 Dresses.
Exactly.
Though Elton John, wonderful, wonderful. I think 27 Dresses when I hear that song.
Yeah.
You can't have a scene like that and not tie it to that movie forever.
Exactly. So we've made it to our top 5, the end of our top 5. But I do have to know, like these were like some good ones. I have some ones I need to watch now. Some ones that I think I should rewatch. And I hope like people listening at home have some like good recommendations now. But I am very curious before we wrap up. Were there any like honorable mentions you had, like ones that were gonna make the list but didn't, that we haven't mentioned at all yet? So I could start. Because I had some that were listed by y'all that were honorable, but 2 that weren't mentioned that I considered possibly on my list, but they just don't make it. They don't make it compared to the others is Just My Luck with Lindsay Lohan and Chris Pine. If you haven't seen that movie, it's great. Go watch it. And then 17 Again, not the Zac Efron version. 17 Again with Tia and Tamera Mowry. And the reason why I'd make it is purely based off of genre-based issues with that one. I don't think it 100% qualifies as a rom-com, but it comes very close, or it's like that's one of the subgenres, but it's not the main subgenre. So those are my 2 that I consider. But what about y'all?
One that I considered that I hadn't seen before but had always been on my list that didn't end up on my top 5 because it was, to me, not enough of a straight up rom-com. It was more of a romance with a couple of other things going on in it. was one that I watched for the first time preparing for this podcast. Anything's Possible. It's a high school romance about two teenagers falling in love, and one of them happens to be trans, and how she's trying to live her life without constantly being defined by her trans identity, and is just trying to enjoy this relationship. But unfortunately, like, the way that other people see her is not something that she can just make go away. And the way that they deal with a lot of modern aspects of life and like being a teenager, things like social media, it's one of the movies where I was surprised how realistic it felt, because there's so many like YA romance movies that have an aspect of social media that are just like, that is not how any of that works. So this was one that had a lot of realism, and it did have a lot of moments that made me laugh, but it wasn't quite to the level of a rom-com for me to make it on my list.
Okay. What about you, Sabrina?
Mamma Mia. Mamma Mia. And it was a genre thing where I was like, that's a musical. And musicals by themselves, I think, have to be in a completely different category.
That's true. Yeah.
But for this, I felt like, yes, because if not, that would have been number one.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But I was like, oh, it's a musical. So I was like, it has a whole different form of storytelling than all of these other movies. It just didn't fit the way that everything else did. And I was like, I'm going to stay a little bit purist, I guess, with these movies. But y'all know I can quote that entire thing, top to bottom, the whole movie. I know it. I know it all. It's just so wonderful. And it's just so beautiful. But it's a musical, so I didn't make it.
Yeah.
It just does such a good job of carrying through all of the little tiny romances throughout it, and then reaffirming Donna and Sam at the very, very end. And I have my theories on who the dad is. It's definitely Harry, like 100% Harry. And then Mamma Mia 2 messed up the whole plot line, but it's just so good. It's so good.
Well, yeah,
I love it. If it wasn't a musical, it would have been number one on that list, because it's just so good.
Yeah, I understand where that line falls. So yeah, because it is hard, because it's like technically it could be rom-com that is a musical, or like, so I get where it's kind of hard, because I also agree with, like, I think musicals have their own kind of like field, so that's when it gets like a little bit watery when it's like adaptations. So I get that.
Yeah.
But we're gonna wrap up today. Thank you so much to Sabrina and Nicole for joining and sharing their rom-com faves. It was a fun time, and I hope that the audience enjoyed it and got some like recommendations from it. If there's a movie that we listed that you have never watched, now you have some work to do. And if you agreed with any of our picks, please let us know in the Q&A section. Also, feel free to drop any of your top rom-com movies that weren't mentioned. And yeah, it was just like a super fun time. I have some movies to rewatch as well. But this has been the Introvert Social Hour. Please don't forget to follow / like the podcast to get notified when new episodes drop. You can follow me at KaVonna on Instagram to stay updated as well. And then once again, thank you to my lovely guests. Sabrina and Nicole, you can go ahead and look at the episode description to follow them and stay updated on what they are doing. I have all the details there. But go ahead and get some sunshine and have an amazing week. And we will see you next week on the Introvert Social Hour. Thanks for joining. Bye.